Well, I think that I went years ago. They had some conferences in Columbia, and they call them no-till conferences. And I think you're probably right. You probably don't get many conventional till guys at a no-till conference because they think everything is for them, and not for just your conventional till farmer.
Yeah.
I think that would stimulate more interest, and you would be more apt to get people who maybe don't know till or strip till or use any type tillage just because of the title.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think that would be a more appealing title to a broader audience.
Okay, okay.
Well, I was one of those that took a long time to convert because when back in I guess when in the early 90s, I really didn't think no-till or strip till or anything would work either because all my life I grew up disking and plowing, and that was just the way my daddy did it and the way my grandfather did it, and I thought that was the only way you could farm. And I started seeing some other folks who were doing conservation tillage, and it seemed to be working. And then I guess the biggest reason I changed, I started learning more about it, and I just decided I saw more benefits than I saw more advantages than disadvantages. And it was, for me, now it's a fact of labor. I mean, I couldn't farm what I'm farming, or the no-till or strip till has allowed me to be able to farm more with a lot less time and less inputs. I started out strip tilling and then I changed over. I strip tilled for about 3 or 4 years, and then I changed over to straight no-till, and it's been a big. I'm a big believer in it now. It has, the biggest reason has allowed me to be able to do a lot more with a lot less, to do more with less.
So,
well, one of the biggest things was fuel, a reduction in fuel. We had, back when I first started, all I was growing was cotton. And I guess what really made me a believer that no-till or strip till could work was I grew up thinking with the concept of of my father and some of the older cotton farmers in our area back in P, and they always said if you don't plow cotton, it won't grow. Well, I had that same mindset, so that's why I didn't think of conservation tillage would work in cotton, because you had to plow cotton for it to grow. And then through the adaptation of years, folks started going to using these, we call them dickivators, where you just plowed the middle and sprayed underneath the cotton, and that started to blow the concept of what I thought, or I don't say I thought, but I mean I'd always heard of, you got to plow it to make it grow. When that process, it was kind of like a process for me, and I started seeing that when you quit plowing the cotton, it would still grow and make cotton. So then I started thinking, well, why, if you don't have to plow it, and then you can use hooded sprayers to kill the weeds once they come up. So there was really no reason to plow then. So when I started seeing that you could still make a crop without plowing cotton, that was a big turning factor in my mindset, and therefore like I say, the input that I could see was you saving a lot of time, and you will spend more in chemical, but you're substituting using chemical versus plowing is one of the biggest things that you got to pay for the chemical. And the price of Roundup has been so, it used to be real expensive, and it got cheap, and it's been up and down, so that sometimes in past years it was a lot cheaper to spray and kill vegetation as to disc, but in a few years there it might have even costed a little more to spray as opposed to disking, because of the price of Roundup.
We're getting input.
Exactly. Time was probably the big, and the reason I went that way more than any other when I first started, it was because of time saving. Because I worked full-time job and had to help my wife at the chicken houses sometimes, and there's just no way I could disc the land 2 times embedded and all with conventional. And when I started seeing, even when I went in it, I was willing to sacrifice some yield just because I figured I could do a lot more acres in less time. But I don't think I have seen a decrease in yield since I started. If anything, well, the weather determines the yield more than anything. But the time savings, that was the biggest thing. And you know, I'd heard a lot about soil quality. When I first started, I wasn't thinking that much of that way. But I have seen some advantages to that also. When I say the way it really saved me time, when I first started farming, I had one 100 horsepower tractor. I had a 15-foot disc that I would disc all my land with. I could probably disc about 7 to 8 acres per hour. And I would always disc the land twice, then subsoil it and bed it and plant it. Well, when I went to conservation tillage, I took the same tractor and bought a sprayer that would cover 16 rows at a time. And that's where my time savings was. Instead of being able to take an hour to disc 7 or 8 acres, I could spray 40 acres in that same hour with that sprayer. So instead of discing twice, I could spray once and be ready to plant. The fuel was a big savings because pulling the disc harrow over the land twice, you burning about 1 gallon per acre each trip over discing. And with spraying, I could spray my whole farm for, I don't know the exact figures, but probably 1/10 of a gallon per acre for spraying versus discing. Because when you're spraying, you're not pulling anything. It doesn't take much energy to do it. So you save a lot of fuel. Once that initial part, everything else is pretty close to the same. You have a little savings on fuel when you're not cultivating. There again, 4 rows at a time versus spraying with 16 rows, covering 16 rows at a time. So it's a lot easier on your equipment.
Okay. We've got.
Well, when we first started, Roundup was a lot more expensive, and through the years, the price is probably half of what it was. Up until last year, it went back up again. So it's been very unpredictable, but fuel prices have been unpredictable also. So, you know, that's something that you just, I guess, once you commit to using conservation tillage, you don't really count the pennies as such, because you know it's gonna save you money. Once you commit to residue management, you know then it's going to save you money every year. So you don't have to continue to figure cost of Roundup versus fuel or things like that.
Overall, you're going to come out ahead.
Exactly. In the long haul, it's going, and then you start picking up other benefits that you don't even realize when you first start.
All right. So
it's different ways to go to a residue management system. You can use no-till, strip-till. There's all kind of, and what I usually try to get folks to look at what they have, and there's a couple of things you got to take in consideration. How much individual, how many acres they do farm. That can have a big impact on how much money they're willing to spend to buy new equipment. But as a relatively inexpensive way, you can take older planters and adapt them to be able to handle residue or plant within the residue. So there's ways you can do it without spending a lot of money, but just using, for example, adding a coulter onto the front of an older model planter. And that coulter will slice through the residue and allow you to get the good seed to soil contact. So they're probably $200–300 a row you can put a coulter on and not have to buy a whole new set of planters. So that's just one basic way that you can. There's ways to get started into it without going out and buying all new equipment.